Check that the oil tank cap is correctly tightened, and the valve cap is correctly blocked in its seat, before supplying the machine with compressed air. All the components of the riveting tool should be cleaned with proper detergents before being assembled again. Stop the compressed air supply. Loosen the tank plug using a 4mm hex key and remove it together with the sealing washer. Connect the compressed air supply. Drain the oil. To dispose of exhaust oil, we recommend following the relative international environmental standards. Remove the compressed air supply. Using a 3mm hexagonal spanner, unscrew the screw and remove the motor protection. Using a 2.5mm hexagonal spanner, unscrew and remove the two screws, then lift and pull out the air connection. Using a 2.5mm hexagonal spanner, unscrew and remove the screws, and dismantle the silencer. Remove the O-ring gasket, then pull out the rod. Release the grub screw using a 2.5mm hex key. Using two spanners mm26 and 32, unlock the motor control valve assembly. Then unscrew it slowly, until it is completely removed, together with the motor. Check the condition of the motor control valve. Check internal O-ring gasket, replace if worn. Check the condition of the threads, that the grub screws on the workpiece are not loose, and the good condition of all seats. In particular, check the internal valve, which must be intact and free to move without hindrance. Proceed to dismantle the motor. Pull out and check the condition of the plug. Pull out the crown and remove the washer. Check that the three satellites are in good condition, and that the bearing rotates freely. Replace all worn parts. Separate fitting with bearing, outer body and rotor, then remove the fins from the latter. Check the condition of the gear, check that the rotor rotates freely, check the condition of the pin, and check the condition of the bearing. If it is worn or malfunctioning, replace it. Check the condition of the coupling and its bearing, check that the plug is secure, replace worn parts. Check that the outer body does not have any scratches or rust on the inside. proceed with the reassembly, starting with the 5 fins, all of which must be replaced if they are worn. Insert the outer body onto the rotor, then the fitting, taking care to align the holes and the plugs of the parts. Using a rubber-tipped hammer and a metal tube, tap the parts together. Fit the washer, then engage the crown satellites with the rotor shaft, checking rotation. Insert the plug into the plug socket. Mount the reassembled motor on the valve unit, fitting the plug in the hole provided. Loosen the ring nut, using a common 32mm wrench, and remove the head, the locking ring nut, and the guard. Pass the plug, supplied, through the service hole and press it inwards, so that to release the fitting from the tie rod. At the same time, unscrew the tie rod and pull it out. Use a 19mm wrench, and an 18mm wrench, unlock and remove the sleeve. Pull out the tie rod sleeve. Remove the drive shaft, and take out the spring. Unscrew and take out the nut. Place the tie rod sleeve on the vise. Pull out from the plug. The fitting and the spring. Check the wear and tear, in particular, the hex fittings. Replace any damaged parts. Once checked and cleaned, proceed to reassembly. In particular, check that the plug, once fitted, is perfectly inserted into the slot. Clamp the machine in a vise, taking care to exert minimum pressure on it, so as not to damage the hydraulic cylinder. Pull out the protective cover. Remove the cover, with its snap fasteners. Remove the seizure. Pull out the bottom. Remove the piston unit. Use a special locking wrench, which we can supply on request. And remove the rod guide. Remove the machine body, and separate it from the pneumatic cylinder. Pull the handle out of the hydraulic cylinder. Using a 5mm spanner, unscrew and remove the ring nut. Remove the hydraulic unit from the cylinder. Using suitable pliers, remove the seizure from the hydraulic cylinder. With the help of an extractor, remove the balzel, and replace it. Apply grease to the inside of the cylinder. Then fit a new balzel, making sure that the white ring is facing inwards. Then refit the seizure, making sure that it is correctly seated. Caution: the components of the hydraulic cylinder must be well fixed, integral and not worn. In particular the gasket, the interior and all threads must be in excellent condition. Pulling the liner off the hydraulic piston. On the hydraulic piston, check that the piston rod is rough, which must be 0.2 ara, and that the threads are in good condition. Also check that there are no cracks or breaks in the workpiece. Proceed to dismantle the gaskets. Remove the balzel, its anti-extrusion ring. Finally, the O-ring gasket. Important: if the machine is overhauled, the gaskets must be replaced. Ensuring that the beveled part of the anti-extrusion ring is facing upwards, insert it into the hydraulic piston. Using a special grease tool, available on request, fit the balzel, ensuring that the sealing lip is facing upwards. Finally, insert the O-ring gasket into the O-ring seat. Remove the flange from the liner. Check the condition of the O-ring gasket and the corresponding par-back ring, replace them if the machine is overhauled. Check that the flange is in good condition, especially the gasket seat. Check the integrity of the internal O-ring gasket, replace if worn. Mount the par-back on the bushing, making sure that the concave part is facing upwards, then the O-ring gasket as shown in the figure. Finally, apply grease. Check the integrity of the liner, in particular that there are no internal scratches, and that all gasket seats are in good condition. Grease the previously assembled hydraulic piston, and insert it into the liner. Finally, fit the greased flange to the liner. Remove the O-ring gaskets from the handle. Important, if the machine is overhauled, the gaskets must be replaced. Using a pin punch, pull out the roller. Remove the button assembly. After removing the screws, remove the retaining plate. Remove the O-ring gasket. Using pliers, pull out the upper piston. Then pull out the lower piston. Check the integrity of all the components of the upper piston, in particular all the O-ring gaskets, which must be replaced when the machine is overhauled. In particular, if the internal plunger is removed, after greasing it, it must be reassembled on the side with the smallest chamfer, so that the largest chamfer is on the side where the plunger exits. The same operations must also be carried out on the lower piston. After applying grease, reassemble the upper piston and lower piston in their respective seats. Insert the previously replaced O-ring gasket into its seat, then reinstall the retaining plate, securing it with its screws, and apply grease. Then mount the push-button assembly on the handle, applying light pressure until it clicks into place, then complete the assembly by inserting the roller. Check the integrity of the O-ring gaskets inside the fittings on the handle. After applying grease, refit all the O-ring gaskets in their respective seats. Important, if the machine is overhauled, the gaskets must be replaced. After protecting the threads with a single turn of adhesive tape, apply grease to the shaft, piston and inside the hydraulic cylinder. Carefully insert the piston into the hydraulic cylinder, paying particular attention to the threading. Screw on the ring nut, locking it completely with a 5mm spanner. Remove the temporary protection, previously placed on the front thread of the piston. Insert the previously assembled unit, consisting of the motor and the motor control valve unit, into the hydraulic cylinder, screwing it in as far as it will go. Then lock it, using two spanners of 26 mm and 32 mm. Fasten the grub screw using a 2.5 mm hex key. While keeping the rear hole closed, use a gun to blow compressed air into the motor control valve assembly to check that it is working properly. Apply grease, then mount the handle on the hydraulic cylinder. Check the condition of the two O-ring gaskets, replace them if worn. Apply grease, then fit the air connection tubes to the handle, then fit the air connection tube, taking care to accommodate it in its seat. Tighten the two screws, locking them with a 2.5 mm hexagonal spanner. Mount the rod, then place the O-ring gasket in its seat. Check the condition of the silencer, then secure it using the relevant screws, using a 2.5 mm hexagonal spanner. Screw the nut onto the pneumatic piston. Check the riveting tool body, to check the condition of the O-ring gaskets, and integrity of the part. Extract the seizure and then, using an extractor, push the valve unit outwards, and extract it from the machine body. Check all components of the valve unit, and replace any worn parts. Important, we recommend replacing all the gaskets, if they are worn out, or in case of machine overhaul. When checking the coil, remove the seizure ring using special pliers, and pull the valve piston out with an extractor. Check the wear of the seizure seating, and the condition of the seal. Also verify that the coil is not damaged or scuffed. Replace all worn out components. Check that the O-ring floats on the piston and the O-ring is not damaged. It is advisable to replace the O-rings when overhauling the tool. Grease the piston with high viscosity grease, then insert it into the coil and block with seizure ring. Check the wear of the spring guide plug of the O-rings, and replace the damaged parts. Grease the coil, and insert it into spring guide plug together with the spring. Check the valve assembly housing for wear. Then insert and fasten the cap. Using a screwdriver, align the slit, provided on the service cap, with the notch present on the riveting tool body. When mounting the valve assembly, use a special wrench, supplied on request, and proceed as follows: insert the casing and O-ring in alternate positions, the spacer from the side with the highest surface, and finally the washer. Grease and push the valve group inside the body until end of stroke and extract the only rear side of the special wrench so as to contain the valve components. Grease the coil group, previously assembled, with spring guide plug and spring. Insert the hull group into the tool body. Last fasten with suturing. Check that the inner thread of the piston rod guide is in good condition. Remove the gasket kit by first extracting the outer O-ring. Followed by the inner O-ring gasket. Lastly, remove the remaining inner O-ring gasket. Use an ejector to remove the two sealing gaskets. Check that all the seats on the piston rod guide connector are in good condition. First reassemble all the outer and inner O-ring gaskets. Apply panel in special grease too. Reassemble the two sealing gaskets, ensuring the sealing lip is turned outwards. Apply panel in special grease too. Important, we recommend replacing all the gaskets if they are worn out or in case of machine overhaul. For the pneumatic piston, check the roughness of the rod surface, which must be Ra 0.2. Check the O-ring gaskets internally and externally are in good condition and correctly fitted in the respective seats. Check the nut is tightened properly with Loctite number 5400. Check the condition of the silencer and the O-ring gasket. Check that the tube is in good condition, secured tightly, and that the inner surface of the cylinder is not grooved. Check the O-ring gaskets internally and externally are in good condition, otherwise replace them. If the pressure gauge is malfunctioning, dismantle it using the special tool which can be supplied on request, turning the bush clockwise. If the pressure regulator is malfunctioning, dismantle it using a 14mm socket wrench. With a 5mm hex key, dismantle the quick discharge valve. Check the condition of the O-ring gasket, the spring and the ball. Check the seat of the valve is in good condition, in particular that the threading is intact. Replace any damaged parts, then reassemble them. Assemble a pressure regulator in its seat, fully screwing in. Apply Loctite number 5400 on the bush threading. Assemble a pressure gauge in its seat. Therefore, it must be fastened by screwing the bush anti-clockwise and rotating it so that the reading scale is clearly visible once the cover is assembled. Tighten the machine in a vise. Caution: apply minimum pressure so as not to damage the hydraulic cylinder. Assemble a pneumatic cylinder onto the machine body, making sure the pin and respective seat are coupled correctly. Assemble a tool body on the hand grip, checking correct alignment of the parts. Tighten the ring nut and lock it using a spanner, available on request, in order to secure the hydraulic cylinder, machine body hand grip and pneumatic cylinder. Apply panel in special grease 2 to the inside the pneumatic cylinder. Apply panel in special grease 2. Use a hammer with a rubber end to place the pneumatic piston inside the riveting tool body. Insert the bottom in the pneumatic cylinder, ensuring coupling with the pipe, and checking the end is flush to the seat of the C-ring. Using suitable pliers, assemble the C-ring, checking it fits perfectly in its seat. Assemble the cover, fastening it with the 3 nails. Assemble the protection bottom. Insert the spring in the driving shaft and assemble it by checking insertion of the hexagon in its seat. Taking care that the distance between the nut and the oil dynamic cylinder is 7.8 mm. Supply the machine with compressed air, pressure must be equal to 6 bar. Put panel in special grease 2 on the tie rod support, then, connect the hexagon on the driving shaft. Apply Loctite 2700 on the thread. Screw the sleeve on the nut and fasten it using the 2 18 and 19 mm commercial wrenches. Assemble the guard. Pass the pin, supplied, through the specific service hole, and exert pressure on it inwards, to release the clutch from the tie rod. Keeping the clutch released, completely screw in the tie rod, then release the pin and slightly turn the tie rod, until you hear a coupling click. Proceed to assemble the head, fastening it with the specific ring nut. Stop the compressed air supply. Tighten the supplied bellow container onto the plug seat. Supply the machine with compressed air, pressure must be equal to 6 bar. With the riveting tool in a vertical position and in pause, press the tensile strength button, to allow the riveting tool to run a few cycles until the bellow container stops emitting air bubbles. This condition means that oil refill inside the cylinder is complete. Remove the compressed air supply. With the riveting tool always in a vertical position and in pause, loosen the bellow container and close it. Replace the washer and check the plug thread. And screw the cap on with a torque of 5 to 8 Nm. Supply the machine with compressed air, pressure must be equal to 6 bar. Press the tensile strength button to allow the riveting tool to run a series of cycles to check the stroke, which must be equal to 7 mm. For final testing, prepare the machine for application of the rivet bolts by setting the power. The pressure regulator should be adjusted to the minimum value, that is completely unscrewed. supply the machine with compressed air, pressure must be equal to 6 bar. By progressively increasing the power via the pressure regulator, deformation gradually increases of the rivet bolt, until optimal deformation is reached. Run a few test cycles, to check the machine is working properly.